Now, when we originally did the Ahmed Mohamed story here on the Young Turks, Anna mentioned that some of the fear-mongering against Muslims in America also was done by atheists. Now, not predominantly, not by a long shot. We're atheists. We don't do that. Most atheists don't do that. But do some atheists fear-monger against Muslims? In our experience, yes, and we've shown you specific instances of it. And holy hell rained down from these groups saying, oh my God, you guys are so biased against atheists. Atheists would never do anything like that. We stand with Muhammad. Now, in an ironic twist, those same atheists, again, not a majority of the atheists, but a small group that are basically the anti-Muslim atheists, have come out and said, we knew it, the kid was guilty. Wait a minute, I thought you said atheists would never do that. Oh, it turns out they would, and they did. So now one of their ringleaders is Richard Dawkins, a guy who I used to previously respect. He came out and said about the 14-year-old student in Texas who made a clock that the authorities thought was a bomb, quote, we were all fooled. Were we, Richard? So what did it turn out to be? Do you agree with Sarah Palin, who today still thinks it was a bomb, even though the authorities, the cops, and everybody else said it was a clock? We were fooled. We were taken in by this 14-year-old dangerous, dangerous Muslim. Tell me more about it, Richard. He says, if this is true, referring to a video here on YouTube, what was his motive? Whether or not he wanted the police to arrest him, they shouldn't have done so. Oh, are you not merciful? They shouldn't have played along with his devious Muslim trick. At the age of 14, he thought, I'll bring in a thing that I think looks like a clock that I would never think otherwise, that anybody else would think looks like a bomb. But no, no, no. Since I am a devious Muslim, I'll make it look like a bomb. And then I'll have people arrest me at the age of 14. Then assume that the national media picks it up. And then assume that I'll become a new celebrity. And then assume that I'll get invited to the White House and scholarships to MIT. Is that what he assumed? Was this part of his elaborate hoax? But hey, by the way, if it was, that's the smartest 14-year-old in the country, and he should get into MIT. Okay, so we're not done yet. Dawkins has got plenty more. He says he didn't only claim to have built it, he claimed on YouTube that it was his invention. Now we're nitpicking the kid's homework assignment. He's 14. I don't know if that was a good homework assignment or not. And now Daily Beast has another story of all these other critics, atheists and otherwise, saying, and yes, some of them are definitely specifically atheists because they were in the context of this Richard Dawkins conversation, like, oh, some of those parts were manufactured. He didn't even make it on his own. What was he supposed to make it from? Leaves and figs and nuts that he found in the yard? Yes, some of the parts were manufactured. I don't know how you make a clock, but it was a clock. Okay, no. Dawkins not quite sure about this young Muslim kid. He says, I don't know. Possibly wanted to be arrested. Police played into his hands. Anyway, now invited to the White House, crowdfunded, etc. Richard, man, maybe you should give up your seat in whatever school you're teaching at to this kid if he's that brilliant. He's like, how can I get the Texas police to play along with my devious game? How can you be a 74-year-old respected or formerly respected evolutionary biologist and go after this 14-year-old kid and his homework assignment and think that he came up with this giant plot to deceive us all? Well, we played right into his hands like putty. Genius, genius kid. Dawkins continues, if the reassembled components did something more than the original clock, that's creative. If not, it looks like a hoax. Thank you, Richard Alex Jones Dawkins. Okay, by the way, I'll get to him in a second. He continues, okay, fraudulent claiming of an invention is not heinous, and he certainly should not have been arrested by the police. Oh, some backpedaling. Okay. So after he invented, and people are like, hey, man, cool it. It's a kid, and what are you doing here? This sounds crazy. Right? He's like, okay, all right, maybe, okay, fine. He shouldn't have been arrested, okay? But it was not a clock. It's not a clock. Okay, you got him. Give him a B+ on that assignment. Then he finally says, sorry if I get a bit over the top in my passion for truth, not just over a boy's alleged invention, but also media lies about Corbyn. This has nothing to do with Corbyn, okay? And you still don't get it. That's not an apology. You're saying you went after this poor kid because of your passion for truth. In other words, you're right, he's wrong, he was lying, it's a giant hoax, and that it was all in an effort to trick all of us into having some sympathy for a Muslim. We knew it. Breitbart's out there, now they are investigating his dad. They're like, it turns out his dad didn't like people who attacked Muslims. yeah, if you're a Muslim, you probably wouldn't like that. If you were Jewish, you wouldn't like people who attack Jews. Ah, we got him, his dad. He should have bowed his head and kissed our feet for attacking Muslims, but he didn't. Part of a hoax. And then again, in the Daily Beast article, there's a reference to, and then he went and talked to his lawyer. Why did he have a lawyer? Maybe because he was arrested. Maybe that's why he had the lawyer. These people are unbelievable. Alex Jones InfoWars has this headline: fake hate. Is Clock Kid Fuhrer all a big setup? What is this, a false clock operation? Okay, and this last guy, I can't believe he got in on the mix. This is really disappointing. Watch.
You didn't build that.
Oh, no, to Obama. Okay, fine, perhaps not. All right, now we go on to Bill Maher. So he's got his show, whatever it is, on HBO, Real Time with Bill Maher. And he's got all these guests on, and he's going to go after the kid. Very, very brave. And all these guys who go after Muslim Americans, they always think they're so bold to pick on the most persecuted minority in America, maybe even more so than Mexicans. And they're like, I'm going to pile on. I'm so bold. I'm so courageous. Where's that 14-year-old kid? I'm going to punch him in the face. I'm so bold. Yes, I go after the powerful. Okay, now, we did the best we can here in editing to give you full context for Bill Maher. So we took out the extraneous stuff from Mark Cuban, et cetera, et cetera. Here's Bill Maher, all of his points, good, bad, or otherwise, about Ahmed Mohamed from his program. Watch.
He's a science kid, and that's great. Can we show the clock? Okay, and the people at the school thought it might be a bomb, perhaps because it looks exactly like a fucking bomb. And look, this kid deserves an apology, no doubt about it. They were wrong. But could we have a little perspective about this? Did the teacher really do the wrong thing?
Yeah, but this would not have happened if he wasn't Muslim. Controversy is precisely because of the color of his skin.
See, I don't think so.
It's not the color of his skin.
Yes, of course.
It's not the color of his skin.
And his religion.
Excuse me, somebody look me in the eye right here and tell me, over the last 30 years, if so many young Muslim men, and he's young, 14, but that's never happened before.
Right.
Hasn't blown a lot of shit up around the world. And and this kid deserves an apology because he wasn't one of them. But let me read what somebody said on the Daily Beast. Dean Obadiah said, why would a homemade clock get him arrested, you may ask?
Exactly.
I just answered that question. Because for the last 30 years, it's been one culture that has been blowing shit up over and over again. He was from Irving, Texas. He said, Irving is only 25 minutes from Garland, where the Draw the Prophet Muhammad contest, remember that a few months ago?
Yes.
Was attacked, as it was, by ISIS-sympathizing gunmen in May. The message is clear. If you are a Muslim, anything you do might be a plot to destroy America. No, the message is you can see why they would err on the side of caution.
Absolutely.
Because only 25 miles away, somebody did try to kill people.
I can't believe I agree with you.
So the teacher is supposed to see something that looks like a bomb and go, oh, wait, this just might be my white privilege talking.
Right. Right.
He was arrested, and they took him off in cuffs and then put him in a cage and burned him. Oh, no, that's ISIS who does that.
No,
You know what? We put a kid after school for a couple of hours. This is not the end of the world. But you know what? The end of the world does happen all over the world for millions of Muslims who are the victims of other Muslims, of their religion. Where are the liberals on this?
Okay, so let's address all those things. I'll take that last one first. Anytime the radical Muslims do those things, we point it out, we attack them 100%. This show was pointing out what ISIS was doing well before the rest of the mainstream media. Same thing on Boko Haram. Boko Haram means that, translated means against Western education. There's nothing I could despise more on this planet. Education is the answer. And these groups are trying to get kids to not get educated, instead and to believe in their fundamentalist radical Islam. We're all against that. That's a no-brainer. Now, in the atheist community, we all agree that Islam is wrong, as Christianity is wrong, as Judaism is wrong. Those are all things we easily agree upon. The question is, do you then classify Muslims in a different category? Now, to give Bill Maher credit here, first he says, look, this kid should get an apology. And in this case, he seemed almost surprised, like, he was one of the young Muslims that weren't guilty. Well, okay, there are some good ones. Sounds a little like Donald Trump there, right? I guess there are some good ones. But the people that have been blowing shit up all over the world for 30 years, who are they? Well, that's a funny question you asked, Bill, except you didn't really answer it, did you? Because what you do is you never count state violence. So when we go invade Iraq and hundreds of thousands of civilians die, oh, that doesn't count. No, we're not violent. We're not at all violent because we have jets and they drop the bombs on people. And when civilians die, you know who civilians are? Their grandmothers, their kids. Sometimes they're adult males, sometimes they're adult females. And they all die. They get incinerated by our bombs. But that doesn't count. State violence never counts. It doesn't count when the U.S. does it. It doesn't count when Israel does it. Now that Saudi Arabia is our ally, it doesn't even count when Saudi Arabia does it in Yemen, right? Now, in that case, I'm positive that Bill Maher and the others would be on our side because the Saudis are also Muslim bad guys, right? So, if you discount state violence, yes, what remains is guerrilla violence of the powerless. Now, it doesn't excuse the guerrilla violence. It doesn't excuse any of that. It also doesn't excuse any of our actions. But for him to say that the only people doing violence in the last 30 years are young Muslims, yeah, if you discount all the other violence in the world, that would be correct, right? But that's the whole problem with your premise. Us lovely people in a studio in the West here, as we drop bombs on your head comfortably, we judge your morals. You get filthy Muslims. Look at all the violence that you do. Look at all the trouble that you cause in the world. Of course we would suspect a 14-year-old Muslim American kid in the middle of Texas. Of course we would suspect him. He's Muslim. What? How could you say it's because of his religion? But Jorge Ramos, the only guy who was decent on that panel, he's great on that panel, and then the other four are laughing about white privilege. You're all living, bathing in white privilege, and it's okay. I know, look, Maher is liberal in other respects. I understand that. I understand he understands that concept. But they all laugh at the kid, like what are we supposed to do? Endanger ourselves with a dangerous Muslim kid? And then they'll complain about white privilege. Yeah, no. You're not supposed to arrest the kid. You're not supposed to handcuff him. Like I've said 100 times, in the beginning, if you think it looks like a bomb, that's not crazy. I said that on day one. You put it aside. Maybe you evacuate the school, which they didn't do, so they didn't really think it was a bomb, right? So maybe that's what you do to be safe, to err on the side of caution. And then you pull the kid into the principal's office until you sort it out. I've been pulled into the principal's office a million times, largely because I got a loud mouth, you can tell, right? But they didn't arrest me, they didn't handcuff me, and that's what they did to the kid. But this is Maher's long way of saying he had it coming. Of course we suspected him. Really, Bill? So why did we suspect him? Because young Muslims have been blowing shit up all across the world for the last 30 years. That's Maher's words. Right there, you saw it for yourself. Go back and quote him exactly if you like. Okay, stew in it if you like. But here are some prominent atheists who are definitely not standing with Ahmed Mohamed and who are now questioning the kid on whether it was a clock, whether he did a good enough homework assignment, or whether he was part of a devious plot. All concocted to get sympathy for the Muslims, who we all know should never have any sympathy. And then they turn around and have the audacity to say, what, me? What? I didn't say anything about Muslims. I just disagree with the ideology of Islam. No, you schmuck. We all disagree with the ideology of Islam in the atheist community. The question is, what do you think of Muslims as human beings? So when, in the past, and single religion was picked out and demonized, that didn't really work out that well. You remember that? When they said, I mean, look, are you telling me that Germany doesn't have a banking problem? Are you telling me that a significant percentage of the bankers aren't Jewish? It's the Jews, stupid. How did that turn out? That didn't turn out, it's viciously ugly, wasn't it? But when now you say, look, it's the violence, and who does the violence? The Muslims do the violence. It's the Muslims, stupid. You're doing the same exact thing. And the fact that you can't see that or don't want to see that doesn't excuse any of your actions. Yes, Bill, it is bigoted. That's exactly what it is. You want to attack Islam? I'm right there with you. It's wrong. It's not correct. It is not the truth. You want to attack young Muslim kids because you assume they're guilty by the very fact of their religion? Well, then I'm not with you. I will fight you, and you're goddamn wrong. Young Turks.